VP36 is the project for today. This one, you solve syntax problems. You make a parser. So your puzzle input is lines containing punctuation marks like this. And the point is, you have an opening square bracket, and open, open, open. Here's a bunch of opening things. Now we get a closing thing. So when we get a closing thing, that has to close the last opening thing we saw. So this is gone. Then the next one has to match this one. So what you do is you put all the opening things on a stack. And then when a closing symbol appears, you pop off the top of the stack. And if it matches, you're done. And then you pop off the next for each closing one. So you push the opening things on a stack. And when you find closing things, you're popping things off the stack. And you'll be able to see if it is a good syntax where each opening symbol has an appropriate closing symbol, or it's not. So here's corrupted chunks. Here's an open and a close that are different, of course, an open parentheses and a closing square bracket. Here's another one that's corrupted. You have pairs of opening and closing parentheses in the middle, but then you have an opening curly brace and a closed angle brace that don't match. And here's another one where you have 1, 2, 3, 4 opening symbols, and 1, 2, 3 closing symbols, and the last closing symbol is different and wrong. So these are examples of corrupted pairs that don't match. So, all right, you want to find these corrupted lines, and here's the rules. Of course, it's obvious. Open parentheses have to get closed at parentheses, square braces, curly braces, and angle brackets all have to close at the correct symbol. So here's some lines. Some of them are not corrupted, but just incomplete. So if you go through and run your code, you can test it this way. Here's the ones that are not listed below are matching and not corrupted. Now, by the way, they can be incomplete but not corrupted, which means you never found a closing symbol that failed to match, but when you hit the end of the input, there were still some things waiting on the stack to be closed. That's okay. That's not a problem yet. We'll deal with that later. The ones you care about are the ones that are corrupted, so the symbols you have here already violate these rules. You find a closing symbol that is the wrong symbol for the most recent opening symbol. So here's an example. You expected a square bracket, but found a curly brace instead. So it's probably not easy to do in your head. There's a match. Anyway, that's what happens here. So you can run your code and you'll see these. So now you can make a flag out of it. What you do is you take the first illegal character that it found instead, and you just add them up with this pattern. And then you'll get a total number. And I mentioned stack implementation I found useful, which is pretty much just to use a simple list for the stack. Linear, all I did was, well, I discovered there's stack append and there's stack pop. And stack can just be a list. So you don't actually need to define any special data structure. I did not know this, but the Python list object has a pop element that works the way you want. So as you can append to the end and you can pop from the end, and that's all you need. You don't need anything more than a list and those two functions to set this up. So when you're done, you can get that number here. And then, now that you've done the first part, where you found the corrupt lines and the first corrupting character, now you're going to take the incomplete lines and finish them. So if you have an incomplete line where you're going to end up with stuff in the stack like that, then you just need to add these closing marks that match it. So if you have these things left, you put in a closing parentheses, a closing curly brace, another closing parentheses, and a closing square bracket. That's the sort of thing. So the stuff in the stack, you can easily figure out how to finish it. And so here's what you do, like you will complete by adding a series of closing symbols. And then again, you can go through an equation here where you start with a score of 0, and then for each character you multiply the score by 5, and then increase it by this amount. So that multiplying means it's going to keep on getting bigger, so longer strings of closing braces will be a lot bigger, like 5 times bigger than shorter ones. So 5 to some power. So here's what it'd be for this one with square brace, parentheses, curly brace, bracket. You start with 0, you take the square brace, which is worth 2, so you get 2. Then your next one is a parentheses, so you multiply 2 by 5 to get 10, and then you add the parentheses, which is 1, so now you get 11, and so on. Then you multiply by 55 and get 58, multiply that by 5, and add more. So it grows by a factor of 5 each time, so you're going to get a pretty big number, as you can see, for long strings. like almost 1 million, and so on. So it's just a way to make, all right, and then you're going to get a whole series of these scores, and what you want is the median value, which is the value that has as many below it as above it. That's just another way to make the flag. So again, that's just another set of data to use. So this one is pretty easy, didn't take too long. And that's what I want to show you. It's all extra credit because I've made enough projects to have all the required ones full for the whole semester. And these are extra credit. And feel free to do any of them. You certainly don't need to do all of these. You can see how you're doing. Let me point out the canvas here. Here's my canvas. All right. I'll just mention this, although you probably all already know, but you can tell how you're doing in the class because the rubric is in Canvas. So you go here, and announcements, and grading, and you will see that you get a final grade. You need 540 points if you want an A. And if I take a look at how people are doing in the scoreboard here, there. Here's somebody who already has an A, even if you don't take any quizzes or a final exam or anything. Here you go for you have the 540 points just a project, which is fine. To this will be added quizzes, final exam, and Kahoot scores. But that's the point. So you see a lot of people are doing fine, and that means you don't have to do all the problems. You could do only some of them as long as you get up to the right total number of points, and that's fine. And so if you are a beginner and you have difficulty solving the extra credit difficult part of these problems, you could just do the first easy part of them and then go on to the next problem. And there are a lot of extras, so you can get a lot of points by just doing the required part, not the extra part. So that's the idea. As long as you move ahead from where you are, learn some new techniques, I'm happy. And let me check for comments. There are no new comments, so I'm going to stop this video.